What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. You're watching Gunplay TV, and today, as we can see on the table, we have a new product from the guys at Sig Sauer. Now, this is the Romeo7S. It's a compact reg dat sight. Previously on the channel, you guys have seen me review the full-size Romeo 7. So, without further ado, we're going to get straight into this. But before we do, I'm going to ask that you pause this video now, scroll down, take a look for that subscribe button, and once you found it, go ahead and give that a click for me. I do appreciate it. And without further ado, let's get straight into the box.
Reach for the sky.
Alright, you guys, so taking a quick 360 around the box, we can see here that, of course, this is the Romeo7S as we touched on previously, and it is a 22mm red dot optic, okay? So the same size on both ends, 22mm straight across, more or less a straight tube, okay? So one thing that's notable about this, we've seen the previous Romeo 7 on the channel. This is going to be a bit more compact than the previous iteration, so we'll take a look at that here in a second. Now, one thing I will note here on the side, hopefully you guys can see that, this is going to be a 2 MOA red dot, no ring, no EOTech style circle, donut of death, just a 2 MOA red dot, okay? So relatively straightforward with that. Flipping it over on the side, of course, we've got the Command the Advantage pep talk from the guys at Sig Sauer. I'll let you guys pause that and read that at your own leisure. And of course, furthermore, we got the features, okay? So we'll run through this real quick and then we'll take it out the box and take a look, and we'll slap it on one of our rifles here just so we can see how it looks in action, okay? So first things first, we've got high performance coatings for excellent light transmission and zero distortion. That's one thing I can say about the Sig Sauer optics. They have been relatively reliable. They're getting better and better, and we can see that, of course, as they get picked up for a number of military contracts, some of their optics are getting picked up for more serious use, and they are holding up. So let that say what it will. Now, it's got a 2 MOA red dot or green dot, depending on which option you pick up, and that's going to be optimal for close quarters battle, or CQB, and mid-range engagements, okay? Now, one thing that's really nice about the Sig Sauer optics, and the Holosun optics for that matter, is going to be the MOTAC, or Motion Activated Illumination System. So basically, when you sit this thing down, it's going to fall asleep, and as soon as you pick this thing up, it's going to come back on. So that's really going to help extend and stretch out that battery life. And it is also nice to be able to pick up your rifle or your pistol and not have to remember to switch that on. It's something that once you have, you pretty much can't go back. Of course, you know, a lot of the optics these days are always on, but still, something nice to have is that MOTAC, okay? Now, it is going to have the M1913 cross-slot mount. Now, one thing that's nice about these Sig Sauers, and we'll take a look at that here in just a minute, it should be, don't quote me just yet, but it should be compatible with your Aimpoint mounts, and so you should be able to pick up a wide variety of mounts and mount options for this. If you want to step it up, maybe lift it up a bit or lower it, you got some options for that. Now, it's also got a side-mounted rotary dial, similar to your Aimpoint PRO, okay? So it's gonna have 9 daytime settings and 2 night vision settings, okay? So this optic is out of the box night vision compatible, okay? So let that say what it will. Now, it's also gonna be IPX7 rated for waterproofing and immersion. They say that that's good for up to 1 meter, probably for 30 to 60 minutes, and it should be fog proof. Now, none of us are scuba divers or SEAL Team 6, and so I don't imagine that anybody's gonna get these things too deep underwater, but if you do, you've got some level of reliability there. And then furthermore, one thing that's nice with Sig Sauer, they have what they call the infinite guarantee. Okay, and so that's an electronic and tritium component warranty, but it's only good for 5 years. So infinite, kind of a misnomer, if you will, but neither here nor there. Now, here on the back, of course, as we said, this is a 1X optic. Now, of course, with something that's compact, we'll see it here in a bit. I've already opened mine up. We can see that I've broken the seals. It is a very compact optic, so if you decide to put something like a magnifier behind it, this is a good contender or consideration for that use. Now, one thing I also like about this out of the box, seen this with some other optics in the past, it does have included flip up caps, and they are clear. So you can keep the caps down, potentially, you know, keep yourself from taking excess damage to those lenses, and of course flip those up once they get too scratched up. But all in all, the back is pretty much just a concatenation of what we just went through. So let's go ahead and flip this over and let's get straight into it. Now inside we've got our typical user manual literature. We won't be using this, we won't be needing this, so we'll toss that aside. Of course, you are also going to get a microfiber cleaning cloth, always a nice addition. I tend to lose these, so I'm always happy to have more of those. Okay, inside the box also an Energizer Lithium Ultimate battery. So these are, in my mind, the best battery for your optics. If you can opt for an Ultimate Lithium, these are the ones that I always use, so it's nice to have that in the box, out of the box. You got some additional hardware, some screws here. Okay, so we'll see what those are used for in here just in a second. You also are going to get your adjustment tool. Let's go ahead and pop that out and take a look at that. This, of course, is going to have a torque spit on one side and a flat edge on the other. And of course, 2 wings that kind of help you actuate either or. But that's going to be used to adjust your zero as well as locking that down in the rail. Okay, so a nice tool to have. I like to keep these in the grip of my AR if at all possible. And then, of course, the coup de grace, what we came here to see, the Romeo7S. Okay, so this is pretty much a micro version of the Romeo 7 that we saw a while back on the channel. If you haven't seen that video, I will link it up at a card at the top of the video. But it's a relatively robust optic. In my mind, it kind of is the Romeo version of the Aimpoint CompM5. And this is kind of the I think there's a CompM5s, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to roll up a picture just to make sure I'm not incorrect there. But they have a more compact version, and this to me sits right up in that category, right? So of course this is the Sig Sauer iteration thereof, and it's, upon first glance, very well made. You've got these recessed turret caps, which to me look better than anything I've seen from the previous Sig Sauer red dots, especially at this price range. This optic, where I picked it up, was priced at $199.99, so $200, a relatively budget option. Now you can find that quite a bit cheaper. I've seen them at like maybe $170, probably as low as $150 if you're looking hard enough. But as far as a budget option, this to me might be one of the top contenders. Now I know Holosun has pretty much had that market cornered, and there's a lot of talk as to whether or not Holosun and Sig Sauer are working together, or if, you know, they come from the same original manufacturer, if you will. Neither here nor there. This is a good option, right? So as I do a quick 360, I don't see any issues with this thing. Now we do see here on the bottom, they aren't ashamed to tell you that this is made in China, much like a lot of the Holosun optics. So maybe that lends credence to that theory. Neither here nor there. One thing I will also call out is they do have a lug here on the bottom of the Picatinny mount. Now, I like to see that. I prefer to see 2 of those, but 1 is certainly better than none. It just means that you're gonna have better lockdown and hopefully less shift of zero when you put this thing on your rail, right? A lot of cheaper optics will only rely on that single Picatinny bar to keep that in place. And to me, it works, but it's not so much of a desirable solution. So I do like to see a little bit of extra stability from my mounts. Now, flipping up these lens caps, oh, well, maybe they're just removable lens caps. No, they do have a hinge on them, so they're pretty well made and pretty sturdy out the box. Let me see if I can get this going here. Sheesh. All right, so that lens cap is pretty sturdy, at least for that first use. But of course, that is a plastic or polycarbonate lens cap, not glass, but it is going to be clear and it's going to be protective of your lens. So of course, if you don't like those, as you saw, you can just pop that off. And we'll do that now just to see kind of what this thing looks like in its slimmed down configuration. And it is pretty slim. I mean, I cannot knock the design on this. Now, I'll try to get this in the camera here in a bit, but it does have a kind of diagonally mounted red dot emitter here in the bottom right corner, and that's not really a problem. I don't find it intruding into my field of view too much, and we'll get some FOV shots of this here in a bit. But other things that I'm noticing right off the bat before I slap in the battery are the serrations here along the edge, which are going to help cut down on glare. I'll see if I can get a close-up of that as well. And then of course, it does look like this is removable. Now I'm not going to bother with it right now, but it does look like that this front lens ring is removable, potentially for the addition of a kill flash. So something to keep in mind there. And then also with your battery cap here, it does look like it is retained, which is nice. You don't want to lose this if you are changing this in the field or otherwise, right? It's nice to have a lanyard and have that tied down. So while that's off, let's go ahead and slap in the battery and we'll see how this thing looks powered on. So one other thing I'll note as I put this battery in, it is a AAA battery. Now, for me, I like to, maybe it's just my shit hit the fan or SHTF sensibilities, but I do like to have more common battery types, AA, AAA, things that you can find at your local CVS. I would hate to be stuck in a grid down or WROL situation wherein I've got to search for button cell batteries. It just seems like a pain in the ass to me. But neither here nor there, AAA battery out of the box, and it is an Energizer lithium. Okay, so I'm gonna switch this on. Oh, never mind, it's already on, and that died. So as is customary, as I was going through that initial look through the optic, the battery on my camera died, so I've charged that up and we're back in the game here. So as I was saying, the red dot on this is pretty damn crisp. I'm looking through it now and it's damn good. At 2 MOA, of course, it's not going to be the crispest dot, but as I crank up this brightness, it does seem that there's a wide range of brightness levels, right? That max level is pretty damn bright. And if I crank this thing back down, of course, we get to the the usable modes, and then of course there's the 2 night vision modes, which I cannot see with my naked eye. So again, a very well-rounded optic. I think for the price that this thing is really going to be a compelling option for a lot of people, especially those that just like the Sig Sauer name. I think that this is going to find itself at home well on your ARs, maybe some of your your beater builds where you're not necessarily pressed to spend top dollar right now. Sig Sauer does have some really nice optics. The Tango line, for example, the Romeo 4, I believe it's the 4S or the 4T, which is made here in the United States, a very nice optic, but that's going to be closer to $500 for the price, right? $150 to $200. It's really kind of a small marketplace as far as quality optics go. And as I handle this, I have no doubt that this thing is going to hold up. So what I'll do now is I will slap this on a rifle. We'll take a look at that here in a bit. And then we'll wrap this up. I'm going to take this thing to the range and just check it out. But I have zero reservations about this optic. I've used my Romeo 5 for quite a bit. I had a Romeo 7, as you guys know. It's one of the more robust variations of the Romeo line, the 7, and it's probably up there. I think the only one that I would say is more robust than the Romeo 7s are probably going to be the Romeo 8s, which of course come in at a higher price tag, but also a very premium optic. So without further ado, I'm going to slap this on my AR and we'll take a look at that here in a bit. All right, guys, so we're back in and we've got it mounted to our good old faithful, right? Got it on the 10.5, 10.5 inch workhorse. And as you can see, it's relatively slick on rifle, right? And so it's a very sleek, very compact solution. As we can see, we have plenty of rail space behind this. If you decide that you'd like to add something like a magnifier, you can certainly do that. But of course, with this being so compact, I imagine that this will find itself right at home on some of your shorter builds where maybe some of your rail real estate is harder to come by, right? So a smaller, more compact, but yet very robust and well built optic. I think that this thing is going to lend itself well to those type of solutions, right? And so as I'll kind of lift this thing up, hopefully we can get this in focus. Kind of get you guys an idea of the height over bore situation here. So it does sit quite a bit over the rail, not nearly as high as maybe you've come to expect or come to love from some of the Unity risers and things of that nature. But of course, certainly not as low as some other solutions for that matter, okay? And so I think everybody's kind of gotten used to this kind of heads up shooting position with all of the risers and lifted optics that we're using these days. Of course, those options do still exist. We'll have to further evaluate whether or not this can mount onto some of the Aimpoint mounts, but if it does, of course, that means that you'll have quite a few options at your disposal. But all in all, I think that this thing is very well made, very sleek, and again, very compact, which is going to kind of open up some options for magnifiers and such. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to take this thing out to the range. I'm going to beat it in just a bit, but as I told you guys before, I have zero reservations about this optic. If the Romeo 5 can hold up to the abuse that I've put it through, I have zero doubt anything with the Romeo 7 branding on it is going to struggle, okay? And so, you know what I'll do now? I'll go ahead and pop this thing off.
A few moments later.
And now that we've got it off the rail, I want to pop this mount off just so we can kind of get an idea of what kind of mounts you can use with this, right? So I'm not super familiar with all of the Aimpoint mounting patterns. Of course, a lot of your optics out there are going to use the Aimpoint micro pattern. I think many people have come to be acquainted with that one. But I do imagine that this will in fact work. So if you've got some Aimpoint mounts out there, you're familiar with the Aimpoint mounts, maybe you can go down in the comments and let me know what we're working with here. But I'm gonna pop this off and let you guys take a look, just so that you guys as viewers know what you're getting into and what your options may or may not be. So as we loosen this up, again, very nice to have the tool included in the box. you know, more or less a simple solution, right? Instead of having to break out a whole bunch of Torx bits, you got it right there. And again, you could probably fit this into the grip of your AR or AR pistol. But let's go ahead and loosen this up and we'll get it off here in just a sec. Okay guys, and so with it broken down, this is what we're working with. Okay, so we've got 4-hole mounting pattern. If you guys recognize this, please get down in the comments and let me know whether or not this is anything related to any of the Aimpoint mounts. If it is, as I said before, you guys will have a lot of options when it comes to mounting this and, you know, remounting it, lifting it up, or what have you. Okay, so let that say what it will. Also, it is going to come with a spacer or something of a riser right there in the box. So this already is included. Of course, you can keep or remove this, and you could probably run this a little bit more low profile if you feel so inclined. But of course, out of the box, that spacer is already installed. And that's again kind of what makes me think that this might be compatible with an Aimpoint mount. That's kind of an Aimpoint style solution, if you will. I've seen a lot of Aimpoint mounts which will include a spacer like that to kind of give you a little bit of height over bore. Okay, so again, if you recognize that, go down in the comments and let me know. All right guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and piece these Lego pieces back together off camera, but I'm gonna go ahead and get up out of here. If you found this video educational, inspirational, or entertaining in any way, shape, or form, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And while you're down there, please leave a like and a comment. It really does help to feed the algorithm and keep these videos coming. As I've said before, I do appreciate it. And so with all that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and get up out of here. You've been watching Gunplay TV. I'm gone.